We got a hard stop here shortly, but I have time to at least hear from the author of HB1322. That's our last bill, Representative Cannon. This one has some complexity to it. What I think we're going to probably have to do is hear you explain your bill, and then let me take a little testimony. We'll more than likely save this for action. I think we have one more committee meeting Thursday morning.
Yes, sir.
Okay. You'll just sort of educate us a little bit on what your legislation does.
We've had dry needling and massaging and alcohol vape pens. Now we got hemp.
Interesting committee.
Yes, sir.
Tell you what, if you ever get bored, just come around and watch.
Mr. Chairman, members, thank you for the chance to present House Bill 1322 LC 550240. There's been several Department of Ag bills, requested bills this session that put some guardrails on our state's hemp industry. Some have addressed testing and validation. Some have, others have addressed licensing, and this bill addresses advertising and packaging. There's primarily four components to the bill. Component one is packaging restrictions on products for hemp, and specifically requires hemp product packaging that is composed of material designed to minimize exposure to light, is not attractive to children, is not a look-alike product, is tamper evident and child resistant. Those are on lines 133 through 140 and lines 17 through 20. The second component is advertising restrictions on packaging, and specifically targets and prohibits advertising that is attractive to children. That's on lines 141 through 145. And then component three is, includes retail store restrictions, to include the prohibition of selling or distributing consumable hemp products if the store is located less than 1,000 feet from a school. That's in lines 149 through 162. And then finally, component four conforms state law to mirror the federal legal limit for Delta 9 THC concentration measurement as set forth in Title VII U.S. Code, which currently has a legal limit of 0.3%. That's in lines 56 through 58. That's the genesis of the bill, Mr. Chairman. I'm not a subject matter expert on this topic, but I do think need to discuss some guardrails on the industry. If you'll allow us just a moment, Mr. Chairman, I have someone from the Department of Ag who can speak to this bill with a little more clarity. If we can join at the table. And
where's the 0.3% in this
should
bill?
be on lines 56 through 58, Mr. Chairman.
All right. Questions for Representative Cannon, or are we going to hear from the Ag people? All right. Let's hear who's next. I've got a number signed up, but you said you had somebody from the Department of Agriculture.
Yes, sir.
Speak. Hey,
yes, sir.
Come on, speak. I think I'd prefer you there at the podium, if you don't mind.
Certainly. Good evening. I was about
You're
to say afternoon, but that would be inaccurate at this
there.
point. Thank you for allowing me to come and to speak before the committee. We've had a series of bills this year, and I really appreciate the attention that the legislature has given us. You guys have not seen this bill before. You've seen two others that came from the House, but this is a third, and it's a little bit different than some of the others. It's a little less focused on how we operate as an agency, and begins to get into some things that people may find to be a little bit more problematic. While we were working through this, I realized that there were a couple of changes that we probably should make. I understand that the committee may have a copy of that amendment. Would it be appropriate for me to speak to that, Mr. Chair?
You can go ahead and tell us what you got in mind. I don't think we have it all yet.
Okay. So the first thing...
I've had several. I've had a proposed committee sub and two different proposed amendments, and that's one reason we're just hearing it only today so we can sort it through. Let me tell us what you think we ought to do.
Certainly. So we did... spoke to some people in the industry, and one of the things that we defined is attractive to children. And I think that maybe we were a little overzealous and decided that we would go ahead and we would pull that back a little bit. If you do have it in your file, it would be AM 550047. And so one of the things that we consider, originally we had attractive to children as meaning that it was the use of any images, words, shapes, colors, or designs that are likely to appeal to children, including cartoons, animals, toys, novel shapes, bright, vivid colors, and so on. And so what we'd like to do is change that to be any characters or symbols designed or likely to appeal primarily to children or persons under 21, including but not limited to anthropomorphized animals, creatures, promotional characters, licensed characters, or inanimate objects, depictions of children, depiction of candy. We just think it's a little bit narrower. And then we also added some language that would help some of the folks in this industry protect their trademarks, if they're able to get one. The USPTO can be a little bit challenging on some of that. I think that they don't offer a lot of marks to some people in the hemp industry. But I also understand that there's case law, so someone's gotten one. Anyway, so we wanted to go ahead and include that. If you look at line 56, I left this out of my amendment, but on line 56, we have the legal limit means a total delta 9 THC concentration that is greater of 0.3% or whatever set forth by the feds. This committee changed that to lesser in another bill that came through here, and I would like to go ahead and make a conforming change to that to match what you guys said ahead of time or previously. There are a couple of other things that that are kind of interesting in this bill. We've got some language in here that speaks specifically to testing methodology. And the reason that we were confident in repeating that in code is because that's already been established in the CFR. And so the laboratories that are doing this testing are already following these testing principles. And so we just wanted to go ahead and take things that we knew were really controversial and go ahead and adopt them in code to make it as predictable as possible for them. And then we have a bunch of other conforming changes, but I think I'll stop because it's late in the day and see if you guys have any questions. I'd be happy to answer them.
Some of the proposed amendments are suggesting that applying this only to Delta 9 is incomplete.
Okay.
And you might could educate me. I know Dr. Raduca can when he speaks, but there's also now Delta 8, Delta 10, Delta 11. Mm-hmm. Should we include all of those forms of THC?
I think if the question is should you include it in this bill, I think...
Do they get you high?
Yes.
Well, then why shouldn't we?
Well, I'm not saying that you shouldn't.
Okay.
But it'll slow this bill down. It changes. That's a policy conversation where people are going to have a lot of really strong opinions. It's going to be a little bit explosive. And so it is definitely a legislative policy decision if you guys are willing to take it up.
We're ready.
But I would say that's not the original intent of this bill.
Why wouldn't the Department of Agriculture want to limit THC from those other polymers as well as Delta 9? Or do you want to?
Well, I think that's a policy decision for the legislature that we're happy to enact or enforce as is prescribed to us.
Is it more difficult to enforce if we add those other compounds?
It's more to test. It'll cost more for us to go and do like a full spectrum, a full panel test instead of just looking for Delta 9, which is what we've been kind of planning on really focusing on.
On our other bill that did pass this committee and has passed the Senate, and it's sitting in the House, it required testing from independent labs. Does this bill require the Georgia Department of Agriculture to do the testing?
No, this does not change any of that. I'm sorry, I was responding to the hypothetical of if we were to include the Delta 8, Delta 10 bands, what that would look like is we would have to adjust the model that we have to expand to that. And even though manufacturers are having those tests done, for us to confirm that they're in compliance, we have to do an additional test. Does that make sense?
You
So that'll
do
go up.
random sampling to verify that their testing is accurate
That's
from
right.
these out-of-state labs.
That's right.
Okay.
And so right
They
now.
are testing those other polymers now, right? Am I using the right language?
Well, they're
there?
not polymers.
What are they?
You would look at like cannabinoids or cannabinoids is the
Okay.
right way to say it. I just say it wrong.
But other approved testing labs are looking for Delta 8, Delta 10, Delta 11, as well as Delta 9 already? Okay, all right. Did I interrupt you in your conversation? I
forgot.
couldn't resist, yeah. Interrupt you so bad you forgot. Okay. Anything else of particular significance that you, or your views on this? Okay.
I think that the conversation about Delta 8 and 10 and the isomers and esters and whatnot is an important conversation that needs to be had. I would be a little disappointed because I feel like this year we were able to, at the legislature, we were able to talk about able to talk about what's going on in this industry in a way that wasn't as frustrating as it maybe has been in the past. And selfishly, I would like to see that continue through the rest of the session. But you are the governing body, you are the chairman of this committee, and so I will follow your
Well,
lead.
I'm seeing these arguments and these proposed amendments, and some are making the argument that, Delta 9's not the problem anymore, that they've stopped doing that already, so you're enforcing something that's already not on the shelves really, and so what good is that? It's in name only, expands the powers of the Ag Department, but you're really not changing what's
So-
getting sold to the public, since they're not really selling Delta 9 any longer anyway.
Well, they are. I
They
would
are?
disagree with that.
Okay. Senator Summers has a question for you.
Ms. Russell, thank you. I'm concerned about the 1,000-foot distance from education. At some of the locations I know in my district down there, schools have bought property, and
Right.
now it's within 1,000 feet of the plant or whatever. And I don't want to. They can't move their plant.
Sure.
And I'm just trying to get that, wrap my head around me. Is that possible that you all would be willing to reduce that down to maybe 600 feet, 650, because that would give them the distance?
So in this bill, we're just talking about the retail stores.
Yes.
So, and it's moving forward. But I will say that we just started based on what was already in code for alcohol. We
Alcohol,
were just
that's
like,
what
this
you took.
seems like a
That's what I
reasonable
thought.
place to start. No, I'm not dead set on
Right.
that measurement.
Okay. I see. I know what you were doing there.
Other questions? Is there currently a ban on selling these hemp products to people under 21?
No.
Okay, so unless our bill gets passed by the House and signed into law, it's legal.
That's right.
So what's the harm of children buying hemp products? Hemp by law can't be more than 0.3%, and we're all told that that means it does not have a psychoactive effect.
So there are two parts to that question, and then there's also, so I would say first, if they're actually getting hemp, right? So oftentimes they're not. I think another component to that is if you eat one gummy, it may not do anything, but if you've got a jar and you decide that, oh, hey, all of those gummy bears look good, I'll go ahead and take, because like people talk about eating 1 or 2 Skittles, I eat the whole bag. I always have, like my whole life, So we see a lot of accidental over ingestion by children, and that's the scariest part. And then also that tends to happen. It's not that it's being sold to them; it's after sale. So when they come upon a product that looks just like their Haribo gummy bears, and it has a really similar looking mark that looks like the trademark, and maybe they're an unsophisticated reader like children can be. Those are really the things that we're trying to
Okay.
target.
That makes sense. Senator Lucas, do you have a question or a comment about
Nothing.
children? Nothing? All right, Senator.
Just thought.
Senator Summers.
Ms. Russell, walk me through, make sure we're on the same sheet here.